I like one of the metaphors that Dr. Cloud and Dr. Townsend use in their book called Boundaries. They say that boundaries is like building a fence around your property that has gates, you being the property. Boundaries are, in a way, it defines who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, your limits, and your abilities. Think of boundaries as coming in 3 different flavors. We have rigid, porous, and the right way, the healthy boundaries way. Rigid boundaries are when someone tends to say no most of the time. When they're communicating their opinions or values, it can come off as inflexible and even harsh. And many times, people that have rigid boundaries tend to keep people at a distance. Someone that has porous boundaries tends to be the opposite. They tend to say yes to mostly everything. When they're communicating their values and opinions, they tend to do it indirectly, if at all. And when it comes to relationships, they tend to be less discriminate about the people that they let close to them and the people that they let influence them. When you have healthy boundaries, you tend to feel a freedom when it comes to saying no to the things that aren't good for you and yes to the things that are good for you. When you have healthy boundaries, you know what your values and your opinions are, and you feel comfortable communicating them, but you're also flexible in making change. When it comes to relationships, someone with healthy boundaries prioritizes the people in their life that are life-giving and are also trustworthy. Many of us have a leaning that we default to at least some of the time. I'm going to just admit right now, my boundaries on my worst days tend to be more on the porous side. So what this will look like is that I tend to over accommodate other people's needs and not really vocalize my needs. And I do this in order to keep the peace, but to also manage my own anxiety. When it comes to my porous boundaries, it has cost me a lot. It's cost me fatigue, it's cost me exhaustion, it's cost me loneliness, and it's cost me resentment. So how do we challenge ourselves to move more towards healthy boundaries, regardless of what side we're on, rigid or porous? Well, I will say that it requires the porous people to be brave and the rigid people to be gentle. To be brave, try sandwiching your no in between 2 kind statements. So for example, thank you so much for inviting me to your party. I won't be able to make it, but I really want to make sure that we make some time for you and I to get together because I value that. Kindness adds levity, lets the other person know that you care about them, and it also makes it easier to say your no. To be gentle, frame your boundary in terms of what you can do. I can't talk to you right now, but I'll call you tomorrow. Even in the midst of saying no, framing your boundary in terms of the positive offers an opportunity for connection or collaboration. So I'm curious if you have any statements that you're struggling to either sandwich or frame in terms of the positive. Leave those in the comments down below.